A common complaint and criticism many people have about My Hero Academia as a whole is that Deku, its main character, is weak, not fleshed out enough, lacking depth, and just overall not a great main character. Now, while he's far from my favorite character, and I'm not even as fond of him as I am a lot of side characters such as Hawks or Dabi, who are just really carrying the story as a whole for me, I feel like he does serve a purpose, and it makes sense that his lens is the one that we follow in My Hero Academia. So starting off, this goes back to his childhood where he grew up idealizing people like All Might and Hero Society as a whole, wanting to grow up and become a pro hero. And then he finds out he's quirkless. All of a sudden his world is shattered as his dream is gone. He goes on with his life continuing to be obsessed and idealizing these heroes, but never feels as if he'll ever become one. Blah blah blah, you know how the story goes. Eventually he gains a quirk from All Might, and now he can strive towards this dream, but things aren't as simple as he once thought. Now that he's older and trying to actually accomplish this, he's seeing that the world isn't so black and white. This hero society has flaws, and heroes like Hawks have to do dirty work that may even make them villains depending on how you look at the situation. This is an interesting perspective that other characters may not have, since he grew up idealizing the society, and now that he's in it and really kind of pushing towards his dreams, he's realizing it's not everything he thought it was, and it's a lot different. Well, yes, at the beginning of the story, he was a little more immature and a bit of a crybaby, which a lot of people found annoying. He has matured since then, and now he is a more stern person who really just wants to save people. He understands the complexities of the situations that lead to people like Shigaraki, and even has empathy for them, going as far as to want to save Shigaraki. This idealized younger version of Shigaraki that is kind of trapped within whatever he's become. He understands that while yes, Shigaraki has done terrible things, he himself was also a victim and is a continuous victim of the hero society and people like All For One and quirks in general. These complexities transfer over to characters like Toga, Twice, etc. Through Deku's point of view and how he's grown and matured, it is interestingly portrayed. Moving further, we do have a drastic shift in Deku's personality in the Dark Deku arc, which he's now on the other side of. As I just said, he's more of a stern person who wants to care and save people and also is willing to cooperate with other people. But in this Dark Deku arc, he just wanted to place the burden of everything on his own shoulders like All Might once did, but that's the reason that once All Might fell, Hero Society was in such disarray. All this burden shouldn't be placed on one person, and Deku makes the same mistake that young All Might made. He eventually runs himself into the ground and is saved by his classmates, and while it is an overall kind of rushed arc in my opinion, I feel like they could have been fleshed out more. I do think the overall message was portrayed pretty well. Another great development in Deku's character has to do with rage, as in the first war arc when Bakugo jumps in front of Shigaraki's attack to save Deku. Deku then goes into a blind rage over what happened. This leads him to almost lose One For All, as Shigaraki is able to touch him for the first time in the battle. Luckily, the vestiges saved this from happening, but if it were to have happened, it would have been detrimental to the heroes. Now, in the second war arc, Shigaraki / All For One, the amalgamation that they've become, is banking on the fact that they'll be able to make Deku get into this blind rage again and take advantage of it. Now, when Deku first arrives on the battlefield that he was originally supposed to be at, spoilers for the manga, he sees Bakugo's bloody corpse on the ground. He goes immediately into a blind rage with black whip flying everywhere, and he's very emotional, obviously, as anyone would be. But luckily, Lemillion is there to talk him down and tell him that Edgeshot and Best Jeanist are saving Bakugo and he's going to be okay. This calms Deku down and he's able to think more rationally, which is detrimental to Shigaraki / All For One, as they were banking on a irrational, angry Deku, like the one they were able to get over on in the first war arc. Disregarding his own safety in order to fight and save other people has pretty much been the standard for Deku since the beginning of the story, but it's just exemplified once he's pushed over the edge by what happened to Bakugo in these cases, as before that he was already fighting after Aizawa was injured, and Gran Torino was impaled in the first war arc. Obviously he was upset, but he completely lost it after the Bakugo incident. It was kind of the final thing to push him over the edge, and the second time around, similarly, he saw that Sun Eater was injured and all that, but once he saw Bakugo on the ground, he went crazy. This is a different Deku now, and while yes, it did take Lemillion to fully calm him down, Deku has grown and is realizing that he can't just be this blind, rageful person against Shigaraki, because All For One will take advantage of it. Deku has learned control in more ways than just with rage, even just using One For All as a whole. Of course, at first he would get injured, but over time he's learned to control it by putting outputs that he could handle and then going up from there until his body was ready. So yeah, all of this makes for a pretty good main character, honestly, and I'm happy he is the main character character. I couldn't really see a My Hero Academia any other way. I like his perspective, and while he is not my favorite character, this series doesn't always focus on him, so I'm okay with the fact that he is who he is as a character. His perspective is interesting as the main character for this specific series, and I appreciate it overall. He's grown to see the flaws in this hero society, have empathy for the villains, understand why they became who they are, and still have the energy and willpower to stop them when necessary in whatever way he may seem fit. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, please subscribe. Comment your thoughts on Deku and his presence as a main character as a whole and the lens in which we view the My Hero Academia world. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one.